order to have a great cheeseburger, you need a great hamburger bun. And these homemade buns are going to be perfect with tonight's dish. So come on and see how I get this put together. We're going to start out with our sea salt, some grapeseed oil, which is very light. We have very good milk and some water. We have our sugar, our fast rising yeast. We have our 1 egg and 4 tablespoons of butter. And we also have our enriched all-purpose unbleached flour, which is perfect for bread and baking. Now, you can use bread flour if you want, but I worked with what I had. And I'm going to start with activating our yeast. Now, our milk and water mixture, which is 1 cup, it is at a perfect 105-degree temperature from when I checked it. We don't want this to be too hot because we don't want to kill the yeast, but it needs to be warm enough to activate it. In order to activate it, we need a little help with the sugar, and that is about 3 tablespoons, and we're going to add 1 egg, and this is all going to get mixed together in this measuring cup. After we mix it, then we go ahead and we get ready to add our flour into our KitchenAid mixer. Now, if you're going to be doing this by hand, you want to make sure you have a very good sturdy spoon for mixing all your ingredients together. Now, I'm going to go ahead and use my measuring cup, and I measure out 2 cups of the flour first. And this recipe will be listed in the description box, which links to my website page as well. So you will see all the steps and what I did on my website. We want to add our sea salt, and after we add our sea salt and our flour, then we want to add some of our grapeseed oil. And this is all going to get mixed together as we wait for our yeast to activate. And as you can see, it was starting to have the little bubbles at the top, which is what you want. That means your yeast is very fresh and it is good. And I'm just mixing this all together, and it took about a good 8 to 10 minutes as this all mixed, and then I added my wet ingredients to the flour. And you want to do this slowly so none of that splash on you. And as you mix that, then I'll go ahead and I add my 3rd cup of flour into my bowl. And that was also added slowly because I didn't want that flour to poof up on me and have it everywhere. So this is all get mixed very gently on a number 4 speed on your stand mixer. And as you can see, it started to pull away. Now, it was beginning to stick just a little bit, so you want to make sure you have your spatula on hand to pull it off from the sides and let it continue to knead for another 4 or 5 minutes. And after about 5 minutes, then I went ahead and I added my butter, which was the last step in this process. Now, we want to add the butter last because this is going to connect to the bread and make the bread dough really nice and flavorful, and it's going to bake so nice and spongy at the end. So after you do that, you're going to notice after about a minute or 2 that the butter is spreading to your sides of your bowl. You just want to take your spatula and just scrape it all down to make sure it incorporates into the dough as well as possible. And as you can see, the dough starts to become a little bit more loose again. And when you're going to add your 1/4 cup of flour, and this is going to help it pull away from those sides one more time, and it becomes into the perfect texture that you're looking for. And as you can see, it became really nice and smooth and elastic, and that is what we're looking for when we're making our hamburger bun dough. So then I go ahead and I pull it from the spatula and from the dough hook or your paddle because you want to get ready to let this rise. And as you can see here, it was the perfect spongy and bouncy type of texture for the dough. So I pulled it and I kind of made it into a little ball. And after that, I went ahead and got my plastic wrap. You can use a damp, clean cheesecloth or a damp towel. And you're going to place this in a warm spot. I placed it in my oven. I had to adjust my racks because I realized that my bowl was too tall for it to just go right inside. So after I adjusted my racks, then my bowl was able to be placed inside of the oven and let there be rise. Now, my oven was not on, so my oven was nice and warm though. And this is going to rise for about 45 minutes. And I had to run a quick errand, so this was perfect timing for it to be sitting there. And as you can see, when I came back, it was perfect. It doubled in its size in that 45-minute time frame. And it looked so beautiful, and my whole kitchen was smelling all sugary and yeast-like. Now, I made these rings because I saw in a few videos when people were making their hamburger buns, how they use the rings. So this was my first time. I just took some foil and kind of measured it out. They were about 6 inches, maybe 6.5 inches in diameter, in order for my buns to be able to form that nice little circle. Now, I normally just use the buns and free form it by hand, but I figured I'd try it with the rings. So I punched my dough down, as you saw, with my fist after I removed my ring, and I'm going to go ahead and just pull off a big chunk of the dough and just form it in my hand, roll it out. And you can do this on the surface of your counter or whatever and form it, or you can do it in your hand like I'm doing. And we're going to place this inside the circle ring, and we're going to let these rise again. But when I did that, I forgot that there was a step I was supposed to do to keep these bread dough from sticking to the rings. I had to spray the rings first. So I had to start all over by removing them, and I went ahead and I sprayed each ring, and each ring had a nice little coating on them. Then I reformed my bread dough into the rings so that way they can get ready to rise. And then after that, I did that in all 6 of them. Now, I did have a little bit of the dough left at the end that did not go inside of the ring, so I let this be like a free form hamburger bun that was placed on the side. Now, I went ahead also and took my plastic, because they're going to have to go through a second rising or proofing, and you want to place this lightly on top of your bread, because you do not want your bread to have any deflation going on, and you want it to have some room so that they can rise. And as you can see, my bread dough had doubled in size again, and this is just after 20 minutes. Now, the next step is optional. You can leave your bread dough the way it is and place it in the oven, but I kind of wanted to have some sesame seeds on top, so you can either use an egg wash or you can use a little melted butter. I kind of cheated and used some vegetable spray in a can and just kind of lightly sprayed the top of them so that way it can have that golden brown color. And I sprinkled on a little bit of sesame seeds. Now, of course, like I said, this step is optional. That is totally up to you. So I just kind of lightly dusted each bread bun with the sesame seeds so that way they could be placed in the oven, and it was preheated oven at 400 degrees, and they're going to bake for 15 minutes, and it's going to get nice and golden brown. Now, while they baked, I went ahead and seasoned up my meat. I had some ground turkey quarter pounder patties, and I just kind of seasoned them with a little bit of Slap Your Mama seasoning. I'm not a spokesperson, and a little pepper. And after 15 minutes, the bread buns came out the oven, and they came out nice and golden. Now, some of the sesame seeds did fall off, and I realized spray method did not really work in holding them onto the bun. But who cares? We were going to enjoy these. And so you're going to let these bread buns cool off for about 10 minutes before you start slicing them. You want all that steam and air to stay inside the bread before you cut it, and then you don't want them to dry out. So the bread bun, they came out perfect, and now it's time to build this hamburger, or cheeseburger in my case. And I just use my mayonnaise, and you can top your burgers however you want. But these burger buns, I must say, they came out so good. I mean, my kids loved it. My daughter, her friend, loved it. It was just too delicious. And I added my ketchup, my mayonnaise. I added all my toppings. I mean, I made this the best homemade burger. I had my caramelized onions on it. I mean, like I said, the bun and the burger just paired so nicely. Especially, it's okay to do the store-bought buns, but when you can take the time out to make some good homemade hamburger buns, oh yeah. This is the best step ever. I added on my pickles. And then, of course, like I said, you top your burger however you want. I added my cheese, lettuce, and tomato. And then flip that mug over. And there you go. Now, this recipe, like I said, will be linked in my description box to go to my website. And if you liking this video, remember to click that like button, share, and subscribe. And let all your friends know this is a really good recipe for homemade hamburger buns. And oh, it was just too good. And I don't know why I was trying to load all that lettuce on there, but hey, I tried my best. At the end, we had the best cheeseburgers ever. So, thank you for watching this video, and I really hope you do continue to follow me. You all have a great day, and God bless.